everybody, welcome. Episode 192 here of Let's Go Racing. Dominic Otto going here at the helm this week. Tyler Jones out on assignment in Phoenix, Arizona. David Starr as well getting prepped for things he's got going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But not to fret, we've got a good panel here to break it all down. There's been no shortage of NASCAR news to get to this week. And who better than two longtime friends of the show? They're going to help break it all down this weekend, from the Hamlin win to the battle in the courtroom, to the battle in San Diego next year, and everything in between. This week on the show, he's a motorsports journalist who runs LASTCAR.info, the Last Car on Brock YouTube channel, and a two-time published motorsports author. That is Brock Beard, friend of the show, as well as a veteran motorsports reporter who is the owner and the editor-in-chief of KickingTheTires.net, and they do a great job breaking a lot of NASCAR news, especially with the court stuff. We have none other than Jerry Jordan joining the panel. So Brock, Jerry, thank you guys for stepping up and being a part of the panel here this week on Let's Go Racing.
Thank you for
Good to
having
be here.
us.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's get started looking back at Dover and the impending rain. Is NASCAR going to get the full race in? We do get the full race in. We get extended laps. We get some overtime. Denny Hamlin comes away with not only his fourth win of the 2025 campaign, now leading all drivers, but his 58th career win, just two away now from Kevin Harvick. He has said he wants to have that at least 61 career wins when he retires, be top 10 on the NASCAR all-time wins list. He is getting there. Brock, let's start with you. We look at Dover and seeing how that race played out. Chase Elliott and the strategy and the call by Ellen Gustafson to come in when they did, and the rebound that maybe didn't happen or just ran out of time. What did you take away from the race at Dover this past weekend?
Dover is one of those tracks that I always figure is probably way better in person than it is on TV. And I guess you could probably say that of most tracks there. But overall, I mean, I thought it had some interesting progression, through it there, even with the continued issues with this particular car out there. It did devolve into a bit of insanity there at the end. I mean, certainly when, NASCAR was going to stick with it and come back out there and run those last 14 laps. I mean, kudos to them for doing it because they really didn't have to. But I mean, then again, the way the weather broke up, I'm glad they still did. So, I thought it was a fine race. I wouldn't say it was like an all-timer or anything like that, but Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe are continuing to build a pretty solid infield rivalry there with the Joe Gibbs effort. And Chase Elliott, he may not have won the race here, but again, he's made a good statement as to how consistent he's been this year. And if we had a different point system, probably would have been recognized a lot more than it has been. So, again, another interesting chapter, and I guess you could say the book of the season there, but maybe not the one that I'm going to do a book report on necessarily.
There you go. Jerry, you and I have waited out a lot of rain delays over the years, and I don't know if you were at Dover this past weekend, but I know you've been there during rain delays and postponements. So were you surprised at all to see the race get back underway Sunday and to not only get a complete race, but even some overtime?
Not really. I mean, usually the rain there will come in. It'll be, at least my experience in most cases, comes in, downpours, or gets the track wet, and then we're stuck there for an hour and a half while they're dry. The good thing about concrete is it dries a lot quicker than some other materials, that tracks are constructed on. So I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. It's 6 1/2 does the other. You keep the heat in it, and you keep trying to get back out there, and that's we're one thing NASCAR is good at with all the air dryers and air tightens, and I say that they have done a really good job nowadays versus 10 years ago or even longer of getting tracks back ready for action. And I think that's just I don't even think about rain delays unless it's going to be a torrential downpour. Like Texas a few years ago during the pandemic, I was there until Wednesday because it rained every single day all day long. But or Charlotte, where it rained and poured, and we had an Xfinity race on the Roval in the rain, and it was a nightmare race. But I like it when it rains and the cars come back out and it kind of shuffles things up, and the rubber's kind of gone off the track a little bit. It makes it interesting. It's kind of like a reset.
It truly is. Truly. Speaking of a reset, we have it all tied up heading into Indianapolis this weekend. But of course, everyone's prediction, the 32nd seed with Ty Dillon going up face to face with, I believe, 6 seed Ty Gibbs for the $1 million bracket challenge. Were we surprised, either of you, on Ty Dillon advancing and being able to face off with Gibbs this upcoming week in Indianapolis? It seems like the Cinderella story just keeps churning out. What do we make of the in-season bracket challenge post Dover?
I mean, I've not been a big fan of the bracket from the start of it here, but I have to say the way this has turned out, where a driver, not typically as heralded as a lot of these other competitors here, like Ty Dillon, getting a lot of attention, that could only be a good thing. So I think it's exciting. It reminds me of back when Kevin LePage would make it into the Noble Five, or Kenny Irwin, or other drivers that hadn't yet won a race, and if they would win that one, they'd win $1 million. In this case, you don't even have to win. You just got to beat this one other guy out there. It just happens to be Ty Gibbs, kind of coming on a career upswing a little bit here in these last few weeks. So maybe not being a dominant driver, but at least not nearly as bad as he was at the beginning of the year. But yeah, pretty happy with Ty Dillon. I've been very impressed with what he's done in that colleague car. Maybe not the most spectacular results on the overall sheet, but if you look at back to the 150s back at Daytona when he was going for the lead up there, or at Phoenix where he was like right up there in the mix, right in and out the top 10. Talladega, when we were covering that event, was going to be in the top 10 until he ran out of fuel there at the end of the race. It's probably the best situation he's been in a while since I guess his Germain days there. So it's good to see, and I think it's maybe good to have everybody kind of get reintroduced to him a little bit.
Let's
I'm
see.
I'm
Yeah, let's see.
thrilled. I'm thrilled. Actually, though, the person who should be the happiest, other than Ty Dillon, I mean, yeah, it is Brock, and I say that because Ty was the 32nd seed, the proverbial last guy in the show,
That's a point.
and I'll be damned if he's not gonna, make it to the finale here. And I'm gonna steal this from somebody because it was on social media today, and it may have been NASCAR Chasm, I don't remember, but they think this race will end in a tie. Uh, but but
That
I
was
have
mine.
All tied up.
I have um, money bet on Dillon. But if I were offered odds right now, I would bet money that Ty Gibbs ends up in a wreck before the end of the race.
Ooh, that's bold, Jerry. What
Very
would you
bold.
think would be the odds on something like that?
I don't know. Let's think about this. How many times and I like Ty Gibbs, and he's going to hear this and he's going to think Jerry's being a jerk. But no, I'm serious. How many times it'd be like if Dillon was racing against Carson Hocevar, okay? Ty has pissed a lot of people off, okay? And this is a way to, I know it's a high speed track, but going through going into 1 to 2 or something like that, or on a restart, you probably could move Ty Gibbs a little bit, and if you want to help out Ty Dillon a little bit, if you've got a little bit of a grudge from whenever he's wronged you before, it'd be just like somebody doing the same thing to Hocevar. I mean, we see Hocevar. I mean, Catherine Legg's finishing higher than Hocevar right now in some races because people are mad at him. He keeps doing stupid stuff. So I think Gibbs might end up. The only thing better would have been if this was at a short track, and I would have like bet the house that Gibbs doesn't finish the race. But it's going to be interesting to see how it comes out, and I'm pulling not because I bet on him, at the beginning of this thing, but I'm pulling for Ty Dillon because he is the ultimate underdog. Do you see how excited Chris Rice gets in these interviews after the race? The banter that Ty had with Hamlin and all of that started this stuff off at Atlanta. This has been, for as much as I wanted this in-season bracket thing to basically be a flop, it's actually made it kind of interesting because of who's advanced. It would have been a flop if Hamlin would be going up against at the end of this thing. If it was Hamlin against Chase Elliott or whatever, it would have just been okay. Yeah, you expect that. The reason it's good is because it's not what we expected.
It's not. It is a 32nd seed versus what I believe Gibbs is the sixth seed. So there's no perfect bracket for sure. And I remember seeing whoever had filled out a bracket through the NASCAR.com challenge, maybe 6% or 5% of people, it might have even been less, Jerry, that had Ty Dillon taking it all or even advancing past the round of 32. So quite phenomenal. It has made for some great storytelling and other storytelling too. When you look at with just a handful of races left now before we make it to the NASCAR playoffs. Brock, I turn to you on this one with 5 races left in the regular season. That playoff picture is not only tightening up for who's going to make it in on points, but also the regular season championship in itself and those 15 playoff points, the equivalent of 3 victories that comes with that. And Chase Elliott reclaiming the NASCAR points lead, William Byron having his late race spin and wreck with Noah Gragson. Now you have 4 guys who are within 1 race, with Chase Elliott leading, William Byron 16 back, Kyle Larson 38 back, and Denny Hamlin, who missed the race at Mexico City, 39 points back. What are we thinking on this regular season championship battle, and who's going to take it?
Oh man, that's a hard one to handicap. That's not the end of the field I'm used to covering, but I'll tell you. I mean, it's whoever gets it's going to have to earn it. I kind of feel like with this bunch, as close as you said, we may just be in for something similar to we had last year. What didn't Reddick win it by like a point or something?
1 point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this one playing out much different, which again shows that the overall point standings, the standings we had since 2011, and now with the stage points on top of it, you really don't need playoffs to make it really compelling. Just imagine if we extrapolated that in there 10 races after that. So, yeah, I don't really have a dog in that fight there. But again, Denny Hamlin seems like he's really hitting his stride. Is he going to maybe win his first Brickyard next week? Track that he's always had just awful luck at, these number of years. I mean, there used to be a time where the winner of the Brickyard was always like the guy that would go on to win the championship. Happened for a number of years. Ricky Rudd was kind of a big exception to that in '97. But maybe we're getting back to that again. So maybe this Sunday we'll get that picture a lot clearer.
Fun to watch. How about you, Jerry? What are you thinking on this regular season championship battle?
I mean, I pretty much thought it was locked up at this point, but I mean, I hadn't been following because I don't think, to me it's not that big of a deal. All the drivers want to change everything up anyway, so it's like, fans want to see a change. I don't really pay attention to who wins it. I care about who makes the playoffs, and then whoever's got the most points has got, the way I look at it is whoever takes the in the regular season championship, they get a probably a bye, for lack of a better term, into round 2 of the playoffs, just because of the points and things of that nature. So you've got to look at, I think one of the complaints that we've been going on is because of all this. It kind of gives people, I think, was it Blaney? Somebody said something that today, even, that it was kind of like a silly process, the way they've come up with the playoffs after, and they liked the original chase format years ago, which when we first started this thing out. So because I just don't follow the in season guy. I just don't care.
No, totally a valid point, and I think that kind of just segues into maybe the more interesting race of the sorts, if you will. When you do look at that playoff cut line with 5 races to go, we'll rapid fire through this. You look at the drivers who have won. So you have Larson with 3 wins, Hamlin with 4, Christopher Bell, SVG, all 3 victories. Then you have Chase Elliott, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Josh Berry, Austin Cindric all have 1 victory each. Now the guys that are still in the playoffs with a point margin but no victory yet, you have Tyler Reddick plus 156. So nearly a 3-race advantage there. Alex Bowman with a 63-point advantage. Chris Buescher with 44 points. And Bubba Wallace holding that final spot with 16 points of a cushion over Ryan Preece, who is 16 back. Then you have Kyle Busch, 39 points back. Ty Gibbs is going to be 52 points back. Michael McDowell is going to be 67 points back. And you start going more than a full race back for the rest of the field. But with the 5 races we have left, guys, we have a road course. We have Watkins Glen coming up after the Brickyard, of course, Daytona. You can have a really bad year and you can still make it right at Daytona because anyone can, in theory, win it. That's in the field. But let's start with you, Brock. Who do you think of who's on the outside looking in has the best chance to make some noise maybe this weekend at Indy or at the upcoming 4 races after?
On the outside, I keep waiting for Ryan Preece to knock the door down after coming close so many times. I was seeing him at Talladega earlier this year, and of course he got disqualified ultimately after the fact there. But regardless, was putting mounting a great charge there. We've seen him have some great runs. RFK in general, with the exception of Keselowski. I mean, really, him and Buescher have really kind of outshone Keselowski a lot this year. Obviously Buescher is still looking for his first win, as you mentioned too, but I don't know if I quite go to the extent of saying that maybe he's more favored of winning versus Buescher, because Buescher has been quite solid as well. But maybe there, and then McDowell also. I mean, a guy that's just as good at the super speedways as he is the road courses. Something could turn around there, even with Van Gisbergen being as tough as he's going to be. Probably Watkins Glen's gonna be like a Sunday drive for him, probably. So, it's a toss up. But if I had to pick one, I would say Priest is one to watch.
How about you, Jerry?
I mean, Bubba Wallace is sitting in 16th, right?
Yes.
I think he's going to fight tooth and nail to stay where he's at. And, and there's some other aspects of, and I want to go back to the real quick. You were asking about the regular season champion. The only way I really care about it this year is if it's Denny Hamlin. Okay. And that's just because I embrace, like Denny thrives off chaos. I embrace that chaos when it comes to this lawsuit and 2311 and all that. So to me, the best thing that could happen is Denny wins the regular season, Denny wins the championship, and we go into December in this lawsuit with a champion suing champion team owner suing NASCAR and could lose his charters and all that. That said, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace are part of that equation, and I want to see Bubba and Tyler both in the playoffs, not not knocked out. I want this to be as chaotic and uncomfortable for NASCAR as it can possibly be. However, I would like to see Kyle Busch make the playoffs. So if somebody had to come out, Chris Buescher maybe Kyle Busch can get a win before Chris Buescher does, and that could happen. I don't know. That right now, I think Bubba Wallace is going to fight tooth and nail to stay in the playoffs, no matter what he has to do.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight down to the bitter end there at Daytona. And Jerry, again, great segue into our next topic here, talking about the different battles from Dover on the racetrack throughout the points grid to the courtroom. And of course, the NASCAR, the 2311 Front Row Motorsports lawsuit against NASCAR has seen a lot of developments over the last few weeks. Of course, the biggest one being this last weekend with 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports losing their charters and being denied a temporary restraining order and an injunction to be able to still race as a charter team. So NASCAR has changed the rule book a little bit moving forward to allow for up to 40 entries, but allowing an owner's points type deal. So these cars, in theory, would not miss a race. But Brock, there's been a lot to follow with this case. I know you've been following this very closely too. What do you make of what has been in the news and what has been coming out of it in the last several days?
I mean, it's a moving target as these lawsuits typically are here. But honestly, I think that, whatever your feelings may be on like which side should prevail in it, I think NASCAR going after this charter aspect of it there it's something that I could see, a neutral finder of fact just kind of going along with, not entirely understanding this charter system and having to be introduced to it. It's like, okay, on the one side, you're saying that these, there's this charter deal that was proposed was not fair, and it wasn't properly negotiated. But we also want to make sure we get this extra charter that we paid for last year. We want to make sure we get the benefit of that, and these other ones. It's like, I could see, I always make a comparison with, judges to kind of mall Santas. It's like, they have one case after another come over there. And it's like, what do you want? And it's just on that. So I never really expect them to have a thorough understanding of it that, any of us would understand of the intricacies of the system. And so I think that this was probably the easier decision for them to go with. And I think the teams are going to probably, because of that, have a very difficult time overcoming that. And maybe NASCAR, you know, we were kind of discussing this a little bit before the show here. I mean, about like the optics of changing the rules a bit to allow these teams, the owner points deal, and still, not treating this as something that's going to keep them from even qualifying for the races there. But again, I think NASCAR is to me, it seems like they're kind of attacking kind of the right angles here, trying to kind of force them into like a kind of an uncomfortable situation. And and that's kind of the weak point, if there is one, of the team side of it. At least it's felt to me, is that they're pushing for something to be changed in it, but they're also like saying, okay, we want to make sure we're still able to work within the system during it. I always make comparisons to the Curt Flood case in baseball. I mean, Curt Flood, when he was fighting against the reserve clause in the MLB, yeah, I mean, it changed the sport fundamentally. And of course, players are able to really get more than their value in the sport, but it really destroyed his career. And I hope that the attorneys that represented both these teams advise them. It's like, that could very well happen here too. And it would be terrible if it did, because these are two organizations that, have become integral to the sport here. But that's the part that I can't help but think about there. But as to which direction the wind's actually blowing, I mean, all of our guesses are, probably as good as anybody else's.
Sure thing. Jerry, you and I remember we were talking about this at Atlanta last fall, and the charter deal was about to strike midnight for the next era of it. And I remember you mentioning that there could be lawsuits on the horizon, and this was something that was being talked about. I remember you making that, I don't want to say claim, but you were saying that you can't take that off the table. And here we are almost a year later, looking at how this has all transpired. Are we in the thick of it? Are we just getting started? What does your gut tell you on this?
Well, I mean, I've covered court cases for most of my life. Most people don't know this, but I've been an investigative reporter, won awards on local, state, national, uh, you know, competitive journalism, you know, contest or whatever for most of my life. I started in journalism and investigative reporting at 17 years old, covering my local high school, um, you know, issues at the high school, issues at the school board. And I only chose the school board beat when I was in the high school paper because you got out of class to go to the school board meeting, and that got me out of class. And I don't want to, excused absence. You don't have less school is better, right? At least that's kind of what I thought then.
I would have
So
the same thing.
yeah, so only I didn't get counted absence for it. But so my whole background is covering courts and all of that. I I don't, this gets in front of a jury, and the right attorneys explain the way NASCAR um, does business, and to the average person, NASCAR looks like a monopoly. They're not going to like me saying that, but it's to the average Joe on the street. I bet you if I gave them the synopsis of what NASCAR does and how it, owns tracks, owns the series, owns the rule book, all of these things, and mandates what the drivers and what the teams and what they can do, the average person, your 12 people on that jury and two alternates most likely, um, they're just gonna. I think they're going to say that NASCAR's monopoly. I don't know. It could go either way. But one thing I do know for certain on court cases, nothing is a sure win. Even stuff that you think is a sure win. I've actually had to defend myself because I didn't have money for an attorney in a multi-million-dollar libel suit, and I won in federal court. People can go look that up. I don't care. But it's I've also acted as plaintiff against a school district because they were, withholding public documents and stuff, and I won that case too. So I've got a little bit of experience. I've actually never won a case that I was my own attorney in, which is like the most. I've never lost a case in which I was my own attorney in. That's what I'm saying, and which is very, very rare. But so analyzing this and talking to my attorney friends in and out of the sport, it's like, holy crap, this is going to be a crap show when it comes to December. And I don't know if this is going to work, Dominic, but I'm going to play something from Denny's press conference real quick and see if it comes through.
Sure. Yes. Go for it.
All I can tell you, and this will just be my blanket answer for all questions about this, is that if you want answers, you want to understand why this is all happening, come December 1st. You'll get the answers that you're looking for, and all will be exposed.
When I listen to what Denny said in the clip from his press conference, 2311, Jeffrey Kessler, the attorney representing, the teams and front row and all that, it's they're ready for a fight. I've said this on Dave Moody's show a few weeks ago. How much money is NASCAR willing to risk to prove they're right? Michael Jordan has more money than NASCAR. Okay? I'm just going to leave it right there. If you get to a fight, guys that have lots of cash, somehow they end up on top, usually. But either way, this is going to be a severe financial hickey for both NASCAR and Michael Jordan, front row, 2311, because I said this also on Sirius. NASCAR can go and ask these teams to give their money back, because if the contract was never valid, then they should have never been paid, and if they should have never been paid, then the NASCAR could force them to turn that money back over, and if they don't turn that money back over, then NASCAR could force them out of the sport, kind of like they did, for people that don't pay their fine or whatever for, getting a penalty for a big engine or whatever it is. We've seen that happen through the years. So when you start looking at what NASCAR's options are, I was reading the ruling. There was a ruling that came out yesterday on the latest TROs and stuff, and it says there's a scheduling order entered pursuant to the following conditions. They're going to have a hearing on some of the and briefing on some of the rulings that recently came out. And it says, 1, NASCAR represents that it will not effectuate any sale or transfer or otherwise convey in any manner the 6 2025 charters offered to the plaintiffs or purchased until the court rules on the motion for preliminary injunction. Second, NASCAR represents that plaintiffs' 6 race cars will qualify for all Cup Series races if they choose to race, similarly until the court rules on the motion. In the event that NASCAR learns of any reason either of those representations may no longer hold, NASCAR shall promptly inform the plaintiffs and the court so that the court can consider implementing any relief it deems necessary. It is so ordered. Signed by Judge Kenneth Bell on July 22nd, 2025. So sounds like the court is making sure that NASCAR doesn't make any sudden moves like revoking charters and all that stuff. Like technically not revoking, but doing away with them or giving them to someone else. They're kind of being held in abeyance would be a quality term, I think, to right now until the hearings and everything are over. And then who knows what's going to happen December 1st. It's going to be nuts.
And Brock, every time something comes out of the different hearings that we hear of the TROs, just different little nugs that come out of the courtroom with this case, it seems like that volume knob keeps getting ratcheted up a little bit more every single time. It's just getting more and more intense. What does your gut tell you as far as this even making it to trial in December? Do you think we reach a point where both sides are willing to come to the table? There's going to be a settlement, or is this full steam ahead to December 1st?
I mean, the courts. I mean, my father's a civil litigator, so I've grown up around kind of the process there on that side of it, and his what I've seen more than anything in a lot of his cases is the court is always going to be really pushing for some kind of mediation. They're going to have mediation over and over and over again. And I'm sure behind the scenes, even in this case here, they're really pushing just as hard for like something to happen there. And those mediators can be really persuasive and they can be really patient and they can just make it go all day or, all week or however long it goes. There's that element to it. Now, again, you got again, I appreciate Jerry. You bringing the other latest results here from some of these other motions that have come through there, because that kind of shows a little bit clearer kind of the temperature of the water out there. But yeah, I mean, until then, I guess it's just really a game of chicken, and it's like which one, who's going to blink first, who's going to swerve first, and I agree that if it gets to an actual trial and you actually, call a jury, yeah, that's going to be definitely a game changer. And that might be the moment that brings the temperature up high enough that, yeah, maybe they do want to explore mediation more seriously. But again, it sounds like both sides are kind of shoring up their defenses, kind of sounds like to me. I think NASCAR is trying to get whatever wins they can get on their side there to kind of put themselves in the best position that they possibly can. And I'm sure much the same thing is happening on the other side with those teams and trying to kind of shore things up, making sure they could, weather the storm with the loss of, at least for now, the loss of their charters. And I guess, whatever the next motion is, that's going to, decide the next step. Again, that could be, something that changes the outcome here too. I mean, if the potential of selling these charters or determining any kind of relief that would go back towards NASCAR or something is contingent on, what, another, something else being decided in the courts. I guess things could change down the road, but I mean, it's anyone's guess on that one. So, yeah, again, I think it always feels like a stalemate. And then sometimes, the pressure builds up so much that something slips and then that's when it finally, ends. And unfortunately it's sometimes hard to tell when that moment is. The discovery process, I think, was going to be, yeah, the most fascinating part of this because, yeah, I mean, from following the sport a long time. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that, NASCAR decides to do. And then you never really hear the rationale for it. It's like, well, we're just doing it, and then you got this on top of it, where, yeah, it's been piling up and now we're seeing more clear examples of it with what's going on now. And, but yeah, I mean, but of course, as also, I mean, with Discovery, it's a two-way street. And the team's got to disclose stuff too, and NASCAR can ask them anything, and it's that's why some of these cases don't even go out there because people don't like, well, I don't really want them to find this out or find that out. But between the two, yeah, NASCAR I think is the discovery that the teams get from NASCAR. I'll freely admit is going to be the more interesting part of it. And,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's
sure.
I've something I always told people that threaten to sue me. I'm like, go ahead, please do. I'm not afraid of a lawsuit
There you
because
go.
you can whatever come discover whatever you want to discover, but I get discovery too. And you don't know what I'm going to ask for, and you don't know what I'm going to find. So, as a reporter through all these years, I would always, especially on major cases, when I was like investigating the mayor who went to I put him in prison from the story that I wrote, the school board that my stories led to them being taken over by the state, and several people going to jail for stealing millions and millions of dollars. You know, I always knew the answer to the questions I was asking, and then I let people trap themselves. In discovery, you're asking for a whole bunch of stuff, and you don't know how great it's going to be when it comes back. It might be nothing, but it could be that one sliver of evidence stuck at the bottom of a box beneath 750,000 sheets of paper that shows, that your whole case is right here in this one little sentence of an email.
Yep. It's a fishing expedition, isn't it?
Yep.
That's the always thing. I always hear when somebody says, "Oh, it's not a fishing expedition. We don't need this stuff." It's like, oh no, that's not the winning argument. I know sometimes that works. I'm told, but no, yeah, the relevant standard in there is very very broad. You're kicking loose some things I haven't thought about since law school more than a decade ago. So I appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. And I was gonna be an attorney, and then a journalism teacher told me that I would never be a good journalist, so I could never make it, and it ticked me off. So I had to prove her wrong. Um, I wish I didn't have such a rebellious spirit because I probably would have went to law school, and I didn't do that. I became a journalist. Oh well.
Hey, no worries. I took the long route through law school there and ended up in the same place. So, hey, it's it's just the way it goes sometimes.
That's funny. I was always told as a kid, well, Dominic, you hate to lose, you love to win, you like to find anything to build your argument, build your case. You make a great lawyer. And looking back on it, maybe that would have been a fun little route to go. But the journalism stuff's kind of a little delve into that. I think you guys would agree on that too, because you have to do the investigating. It's a lot of reading too, as a lawyer, as an attorney, a lot of case study, a lot of research, and you kind of do that as a journalist. So you kind of get a taste of at least that.
There's a lot of overlap. I mean, it's a good way to bring it up. I mean, there is a lot. I think well, not to go too far aside on here, but I mean, I think there's a lot that you learn about like how persuasive you can be, even in just explaining the facts of something.
Yes.
That's the thing I always thought was interesting. But I still feel that it influences my writing a little bit.
Well, Dominic, he influences America's youth today. He's a teacher, so
that's right.
Something like that, right? Yes. Well, and I'll be the new broadcast and journalism teacher at the school I work at this upcoming year. So it's going to be a fun little program. I think that'll be an even better fit.
Very exciting.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Last thing on this before we move on to the next little bit that we got here. One thing, this could be just like maybe minute detail in this entire overarching case, but Jerry, Brock, when it comes to people getting sued or when there's pending litigation, you always see like the shutdown where people don't want to talk. People aren't really wanting that camera on them. They're like, we'll talk about it in court. We'll let things play out. We even see that with Tyler Reddick this past weekend, saying he was not going to really answer any questions, kind of deferred it. But the one man who has been front and center, been very open with media on his podcast, Denny Hamlin in the thick of it, has, at least to me, guys, he seems like he's been very open and transparent. I don't know if he's maybe too open or maybe has all the confidence in the world with this case, but it to me seems like a very interesting strategy that we're seeing Denny Hamlin not only shying away from it, but embracing the spotlight of this lawsuit. And Jerry, maybe it plays into that chaos a little bit too, that Hamlin thrives in that chaotic environment. But a very interesting thing I have noticed with Denny is he doesn't shy away from it. He will answer questions, which I don't think most people would feel comfortable in the first place answering a lot of these questions.
Well, one thing, Denny Hamlin's not scared, okay? And he's already gone over whatever he's saying. He's already anticipated every question. Jeffrey Kessler is an amazing attorney, okay? Just look up Jeffrey Kessler and the stuff that he's done with NCAA and the NBA and different sports that he's gone up against. So look up him and you'll see. But they've already gone over this stuff. Denny's not saying anything that's going to really get him in any trouble. And he's pissed off, okay? NASCAR, is back there taking shots at him just like they're taking shots at NASCAR. And, at the end of the day, we're going to hear it anyway. We just would hear it in a courtroom normally. So I love it. And, I love people who are like that. When I was reporting on hard news and stuff, I loved what I called quote machines. And Denny Hamlin right now is a quote machine. And that makes him my best friend when it comes to this case.
Yeah, let's say you, Brock. Is it surprising to see Denny Hamlin, like Jerry saying, being the quote machine and being up front and just being very candid at times about what is going on?
Well, I hope this doesn't minimize it or anything because I'm not intending to, but I think that podcast, when he started doing that, I think Denny's always had that in him, but I mean, maybe he's just been even more emboldened since he started doing it. And it's probably no coincidence that this suit came together coinciding perfectly with, the rise of actions that are detrimental and us hearing it. And, I mean, we're just not getting that from hardly anybody else really in the field or anybody else with podcasts even. So it's been refreshing, and maybe that sometimes, maybe that's just a little bit that kind of gets you more emboldened. It's like, hey, I'm talking about this on the show and maybe we should do something about it, and there's some things he talks about maybe he doesn't have that much control over, but this is one that he does. And that's his conviction and what he's believes in. The more, more power to him, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, maybe it's something as simple as that just kind of motivated him that way. Well, on top of him operating a team himself and literally seeing the dollars and cents and where they go and all that. I'm sure that's not a small piece of the puzzle either. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what role he is. I'd be interested to know if I were a fly on the wall, like how much the attorneys are like, yeah, it's like you probably don't want to talk about this or talk about that, or maybe shelve this and all that. But I don't see Denny being the kind of person that would. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I mean, I don't think he says things just off the cuff. There, just I think as Jerry said, I think it's just he's been anticipating these questions and knows what he's going to be talking about, and he's ready to do it. And that may well be why he's so fresh in doing so.
Well, I'd like to point out that you brought up the podcast. Denny started the podcast, I think, on January 19th of 2023. And by March, he was already fined for stuff that he was saying. So,
exactly.
So, I mean, that just shows you right there.
The Phoenix thing, right? Where
exactly. Yep.
How absurd was that? Yeah.
Yeah. So he got fined for a hypothetical comment that he made on the podcast. Now, we all know he wrecked Ross, but that's okay.
There we go. This is just a blip in the map, if you will, of all of this entire lawsuit that's going to play out. And of course, we're going to be talking all about it all season long here on Let's Go Racing. You've been listening to episode 192 here of Let's Go Racing. We've got a couple more things before we get on out of here. We're on to our news and notes segment. We take a look and we start with the news there out of San Diego that the street course is going to be moving from Chicago to San Diego in 2026. NASCAR announced on Wednesday, July 23rd. The Cup Series, Xfinity, and Truck Series will all be a part of a triple header weekend at the Naval Base Coronado. That's in San Diego, California, on Father's Day weekend 2026, the weekend of June 21st. NASCAR is working with iRacing to develop the course layout, which is anticipated to be about a 3-mile layout. And they had quite the social media rollout and announcing this on Wednesday morning. If you had the chance to check that out, what a great thing they were able to keep under wraps, in my opinion, with the drivers and everybody they worked with. A great 3-minute video, worth the time to go see it. Let's start with you, Brock. You hail from the state of California, and we've seen 15 more or less different racetracks that have been a part of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule since its inception. Of course, Sonoma being the closest to you, but we now have another track in your backyard. What was your reaction to seeing that NASCAR is taking the street course to San Diego?
Oh, very excited. Very excited. I along with many others have mourned the loss of the Auto Club Speedway, and I mean, it's just NASCAR now saying that this is not a major priority in redeveloping whatever parcels they have left into anything at this point. I think is kind of the writing on the wall there. But yeah, I mean, they just finished doing the marketing for the Sonoma Raceway here, saying it's the only stop in California. I think we had a great turnout there, and it shows that yes, there are a ton of great race fans out here. It's unfortunate that time and again we've had things like this where we lose venues like Auto Club and Riverside and Ontario and so forth. But this, I mean, I know it had been rumored before today a little bit, but quite exciting for sure. I mean, we got the 250th anniversary of the United States next year, 250th anniversary of the Navy, and you're going to have it be at a naval base. San Diego's gorgeous area down there. I used to be in rowing competitions back in college there in Mission Bay, which is just a little bit north of there. I haven't really been down in that area really since then. Yeah, I mean, they got some great views down there, I understand, from this part of the base, and should be a great setting. You got certainly leading into the 4th of July weekend. I anticipate it's going to be a very patriotic weekend, on top of course, the location at the base itself. As you said, we don't know what the configuration of the track is necessarily, but it should be really interesting. I'm intrigued kind of by what Ben Kennedy's statements earlier about, it sounds like it's going to be kind of like, an air show protocol, that they're really anticipating just kind of having just a large crowd there. And, however that's going to work out I don't know how that's going to work out in terms of access in the garage or the credentialing side or whatever. I guess they're figuring that out, but one way or the other, I mean, it should be a fascinating event there. I wouldn't give it to Shane Van Gisbergen right away. I think that, I would be surprised if they didn't enter him in all three races there just to troll the field there. But you know what? That would be a wonderful thing to add into the patriotic angle too. I mean, you got can any of the American stars go against the international competitor there? They can play that up. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun hearing about it and the anticipation of it and everything. And I hope to cover it. I would love to.
Jerry, I know we talk a lot about the schedule, and I got to point out something here. My colleague Jonathan Field at the Racing Experts had put in his reporting earlier this week that 2026 will be the seventh straight NASCAR Cup Series season and the eighth out of the last nine that will have added a new track or an existing track that had been a part of the schedule to its schedule. So NASCAR is showing a different hand, if you will, every year and showing they're not afraid to change it up. We remember through the mid 2010s where there wasn't a lot of change up in the schedule, but this certainly brings a lot of big noise and a lot of attention and a lot of new eyeballs to the sport. What do you make of NASCAR continuing to try and roll the dice of different things that they put on their schedule?
Well, this is something we've all been looking at and trying to find out about and ask questions about. We knew this was going to happen. We knew San Diego was a reality. We just didn't know when. We didn't know how it was going to come about, and what year. We still had 2 years left in Chicago that we could have done. I'm happy that we're going there. I'm actually, as we sit here and talk, I am looking at a map and I'm trying to figure out if we are going to race on the airstrip or if we are going to race on the actual amphibious base, because I'm trying to figure out where in the heck the fans are going to be. That's one. And whatever fans are there, are the fans just the military? Or are we going to bring in fans from other areas? Because there's just not a lot of room. I mean, there's Silver Strand Road. I guess you could run cars two different ways on that. You could cut down. I guess it's called Tulagi Road, coming off of the Strand road, big road there. I mean, if you go to the map and you look at this stuff and you Google Earth it, it's quite interesting to see. Now there is an area where there's like a green area. It looks like it's a golf course. I'm very interested to see how they come up with a course, because I'm just really confused. There's it's an island. You've got to get there on a bridge. We know what NASCAR is like with traffic. Okay, I don't want to have to get there at 4 a.m. Oh, and by the way, prices at Marriott's. The Coronado Island Marriott, $664 a night. The Marquis Marriott, $532. The San Diego Marriott, $28.85. That's per night, just so you guys
Wow.
know. Yeah, I've already gotten some hotel rooms pulled just because I knew that it was going to happen. So there's a lot of logistics still to be worked out. But I will say this: you brought up the 3-minute commercial, and I got to give NASCAR their props. I when they screw up, I call them out on it. When they do well, I give them bouquets and flowers, and they deserve every accolade possible for that 3-minute video. That is the best NASCAR production promo video I have ever seen in 24 years of covering this sport. And for those that don't know it, just go to my Twitter account and you'll find it. I post, or go to the NASCAR.com Twitter account. It's an amazing video with Hocevar and Joey and Chase and all these drivers that were brought out to the air base, and they went up in planes and they raced around what is purported to be the course, which I don't think that's what it's going to look like. And it was kind of a Top Gun feel, and it was just really badass. It was just it's like I said, no doubt in my mind that should win an award. I don't know what awards they do for like Emmy commercial type stuff. That should win an award. It was that good.
It was right up there with that Grand Theft Auto Vice City Miami thing they did with Carson Hocevar Marks. That NASCAR social media team and their video department, they have really stepped it up this year.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be Johnny come lately on it, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it as well. There, what kind of reminded me of the old Coca-Cola Racing family ads, just like the later, even bigger evolution of it there. I mean, it's something I hope that starts a trend with the brand activation of this sport where you really show these drivers play off each other and show their different personalities. Kind of like the one we saw from when the bracket started, that Ryan Blaney and Stenhouse and stuff were in. That was a fun one too. So yeah, I agree. Social media team there at NASCAR is knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, these guys have a personality. Let's put it on display for the world to see. I think that's what really resonated with a lot of fans in the 90s and the 2000s, and it seems like NASCAR is trying to take a step back towards that. Looking ahead to this weekend, you have all three series making a trip to the Hoosier State. You have the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series visiting the Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, and of course the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series taking on the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis. When we look at the race weekend ahead, Denny Hamlin, shocker, your odds-on favorite for the Caesar Sportsbook at plus 400 or 4-1 as of opening odds as of Monday, July 21st. Kyle Larson, last year's winner, at plus 550. Ryan Blaney at plus 650. William Byron and Tyler Reddick at plus 1,000. Chase Elliott and Chris Buescher at 1,100 and plus 1,200, respectively. Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe at plus 1,400. Ty Gibbs plus 1,800 and bringing up his competitor in that in-season bracket, Ty Dillon, towards the bottom. A long shot to win at plus 100,000 or 1,000 to 1. But as you look at the select odds that come out typically Monday and Tuesday of each week, who you guys liking this weekend for the Brickyard 400? Let's go around the room and make our picks. Let's start with you, Jerry.
Oh man, Blaney wants it so bad he can taste it. So, I would definitely go I would definitely have to go with Blaney.
Blaney, all right, going with Blaney. How about you, Brock?
I'm telling you what, I'm looking at kind of these last couple of weeks there, or I guess a couple of weeks further back. Pocono, when it was Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin, you had Briscoe and Hamlin again, right up there in the mix here at Dover. And again, I mentioned earlier, Hamlin's history of, just having bad luck and not quite able to pull it off. That's why I think Chase Briscoe will defeat him this time and have an Indianapolis native win the race. I think that would be a massive.
What a storyline that would be. I think looking at the race weekend, I think he finally gets it done. He's been needing this in his crown jewel of all the races he's won. Give me Denny Hamlin and that momentum to get 59th career win on Sunday at Indianapolis.
That would be big.
Be a big story. Time for everyone's
That'd be really good. More chaos.
more chaos. We're here for it, Jerry. We're here for the chaos. Should be a fun, exciting weekend at the Brickyard. Looking ahead now, everyone's favorite segment on the show, the Ask segment, where you, the listener, the viewer, submit questions to our panel each and every week. And you can always do that by sending in your questions to davidstarpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on our social media handles on X at Star Podcast and on Facebook.com/David Star Podcast is where you can find us and get us your questions that we can post to the panel each and every week. We have a question in the inbox this week. It comes from Edward, and this is for all of us. Guys, how much do drivers like Cletus McFarland, Frankie Muniz, and those with celebrity status move the needle in expanding NASCAR's popularity?
Mm, I think there's definitely some aspect of it. I mean, look, Cletus being an influencer, I mean, I run a marketing company, and I can definitely tell you that, we use influencers, and not only is he, fall into that category, but he also races, and he's not bad at it. So, he moves a needle for some people, not necessarily for me, but he moves the needle, and I think that type of stuff is good for the sport. The more people you can get in front of, the better. So that's my theory. And if you can use whoever you need to use to get that message out there, all the better.
How about you, Brock? Do you feel like drivers like that move the needle per se, or help with reaching a broader audience?
I mean, I'm kind of with Jerry. I mean, I think that again, you have these personalities, they could be kind of eccentric or have kind of a very particular fan base that maybe it doesn't have as much interest in racing, or maybe just not much awareness of it, or doesn't follow it as closely or something, but then could get brought into it. Yeah, I think that's a great thing. I mean, I was seeing Cletus at Talladega. He had a massive contingent around him, even in the garage area after the ARCA race. I mean, he easily had the most people around him there, which is, hopefully, not just getting the sport more attention, but ARCA itself more attention there along the same way. And then Frankie Muniz of the Truck Series, perhaps in the same sense there. I mean, it's a good question, I mean, as to how much it's moving the needle. I'm not sure, but I mean, again, I think, especially in the social media era, and, people posting short form videos or YouTube or whatever else is in between, whatever gets the sport out there, to be seen by as many people as possible. Yeah, I don't see anything, negative there. I mean, I think I know I made a tweet on social media a little while ago there about that I personally have not been a big fan of Talladega Nights and its depiction of the sport. And
Me
I know
neither.
he's kind of embraced that. Okay, well, there you go. See, there you go. Not entirely alone on that. But actually, I mean, again, we had a good discussion on it. And again, that's the wonderful thing with the sport. I mean, people can like embrace it in any number of different ways. And again, Frankie Muniz is very different in his approach from Cletus and stuff. But if it's attracting both groups, maybe completely disparate groups out there into the sport, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it's moving it, but I don't think it's a bad thing. So kudos to him.
I feel like NASCAR wants these guys to be successful too, because it can only help, at least from my outside perspective, trying to look inward, that
Yeah.
I think you want guys like this that bring that following that their fans might not be watching an ARCA dash cam video or an ARCA in-car cam, but because Cletus is in the field, hey, we want to see that. Or because Frankie was that childhood star, we're going to watch that truck race.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good to see. I mean, it's again, whatever could intrigue people. Well, again, I think the helpful thing too is, I mean, you got both these drivers in this case, are still very early in their careers and they're developing, and again, that gets more attention to that portion of the field, again, and kind of talking more about as much of the field as possible. And I still think that's something that NASCAR and especially its broadcast partners really have kind of fallen behind on lately. There's been some examples of that improving. We certainly saw that with Prime's coverage here earlier this summer, but it's maybe again it's kind of shines a light on, oh, he's competing against this guy, and who's this, and what's this team, and so forth. And maybe it's the first thing that grabs somebody's attention, but it's not the only thing they're watching. So I think that maybe it would encourage kind of a broad view of the sport there, and the drivers that compete in it.
Certainly so. Next question that came in from the inbox. This one comes from Jeffrey. Jeffrey wants to know, for the entire panel, what is a hidden talent that you possess? Jerry, let's start with you.
It's not hidden. I mean, I play pool.
He's pretty good, by the way, folks. He's very, very talented at the pool table.
It's not hidden. I played professional for years, and played on the National 9-Ball Tour, the McDermott 9-Ball Tour. Played one or two of the Camel Pro 9-Ball Tour years and years ago, back in the 90s and early 2000s. That's really you're not going to see me run a marathon. You're not going to see me hitting home runs over the fence or kicking field goals. But I play pool. I also play poker. I'm pretty decent at poker. But pool would be my my number one talent away from anything else.
How about you, Brock?
In talent, I'm sure it's a good question. It's been a long time since I have things that I've done, but I don't know how well I'm at them now. That's kind of the difficult part here. I've played piano and trombone growing up. I haven't picked up either of those in years though. Um, I mentioned briefly my rowing experience in college. So I mean, I actually went into a training thing recently and got back on one of those ergometers. And as I say, the hand remembers the gun. You get on one of those and just you remember the rhythm right away, and you jump back into it. So perhaps that if I get into if somebody throws me in a single person skull there in Mission Bay or something like that, I can at least turn it around and get it back to shore. So maybe that.
There you go. Maybe you'll be watching the race from that view next year, right?
Maybe that'll be the way.
That might be the
Speaking
way.
of, I will say this. If anybody wants to go in partial with me on this, I have a room right now at the Hilton Shore House at the Dell LXR Luxury Hotel and Resort on Coronado Island, just steps from where the track is purported to be, from Thursday till Sunday. So you have to check out Sunday and take your stuff with you when you go to the racetrack. It is a small price of $7,771.45. I'm taking offers if anybody wants to split that.
Well, there you go. Hey, Jerry's taking bids
That in mind.
now. Yes, there you go. I like it. And like you, Brock, I would say one of my hidden talents would be in the musical realm too. Some of our listeners know I've shared a little bit with it, but my favorite thing to do outside of racing or anything outside of motorsports would be getting behind the drum kit and playing drums. And I played in a band for a few years, and we got to do some gigs, kind of like a classic rock type-ish sound, and have recently rediscovered how much fun it is to get behind the drums and just beat the crap out of the tom-toms and the snare drum and hit the cymbals like everything's just crashing down around you. It's a lot of fun. So definitely have missed that over the last few years, but that has been a fun, I guess, hidden or lesser known talent to get back behind.
I like it. There we go.
Yeah,
I
okay.
have no musical talent.
Yet. Never too late, Jerry.
Oh, trust me, it's way too late. It's kind of like Brock was saying something about like rowing. Yeah, no, I'll pass. I did my best to stay away from physical activity. You can tell that by my waistline.
Well, you don't want to get in a little fiberglass boat at 5 in the morning, man. That's
Bro, no.
believe me. Believe me, I weigh about probably 100 pounds more than I did during my fighting weight there back then. So I get it.
So Ryder Wells, who I promote and sponsor in micros, and he works in the truck series for Nice Motorsports. His sister was on the Jacksonville rowing team, and they like won number one in their division over like major private schools and all those people that do rowing and crap like that. And so I saw that. I want no part of it because that's work. That is way more work than I ever want to be involved in.
It is intense. I will tell you this. I don't think it's too far on your show here, Dominic, but I had a couple roommates and teammates who were active members of the Marines, and we would do 2,000-meter tests on the ergometer rowing machine, and they would get nervous. Even them would get nervous about going in there because you got to go on that for, I think it's about 6 to 7 minutes, depending how fast you are, and you are just running it out as much as you can, and there's no taking a break. You got to just do it, man. And it's even more savage than it looks on there. Water resistance, I think, is probably the greatest force you can work against in sports. I mean, but I'm a bit biased from that perception.
Man, I'll take your word for it. I do not envy you one bit, but I will say maybe it is worth the three of us starting a band. I think Brock could be on the keyboard, piano. I can take on
Hey, there we go.
Jerry. We need you on the vocals.
Dude, I can't carry a tune. I'm telling you, I suck at like anything musical.
You can play the air guitar for us. How about that?
I can do that.
There we
I
go.
can play the air guitar. There you go. Perfect.
Guys, this has been a fun show. This has been, if not weeks in the making, months in the making to have you guys on. And what a pleasure it's been to have you both at the same time to break down the headlines that have been going on in the sport the last few weeks, and especially with the court stuff. Who better than the two in-house resident Let's Go Racing friends of the show that know what they're talking about on this stuff. So we appreciate having you guys. But before we get on out of here, let's start with you, Brock. Tell us what's going to be keeping you busy over the next several days and weeks, and number two, how people can get in touch with you.
Certainly. So again, thanks for having me on tonight. My Twitter feed is at LastCarOnBrock, patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. Video I'm working on right now for my YouTube channel is on the life of the late Kenny Irwin Jr. I'm expecting to get that done early August. Those in my Patreon $5 and up level will get advanced access to that video. And then my next trackside coverage, I'm expecting to do Phoenix in November, and then beyond that, kind of looking ahead to whatever our plans are for 2026. But Sears Point will definitely be on that list. Hopefully, you're still on the schedule there too, and maybe San Diego. We'll find out. But other than that, yeah, just staying busy and working on some more videos.
There you go. And how about you, Jerry? Where can people follow along? How can people get in touch? And what's keeping you busy over the next little bit?
Well, kickingthetires.net is the website. My X account is JerryJordan_KTT. Also, we have X for Kicking the Tires. Pretty much everything is either Kicking the Tires or JerryJordan_KTT. It's just I have pretty much have two accounts for everything, and that's the I'll see one of them. I'll probably see the JerryJordan_KTT before I'll see the others. But yeah, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram a little bit. I don't do anything really on what's that TikTok stuff. But I'm out there. You can find me, or you give me a call, 409-498-1074. I have no problem giving up my cell phone to everybody. Send me a text message. Try not to blow me up at 3 a.m. But if you do, I might answer the phone, so that'll surprise the hell out of you.
There you go. Well, and I can assure you, the listener, that Brock and Jerry are worth a follow, especially on X with their coverage of the sport, and even their takes are very, very interesting, very entertaining. You will not be disappointed. As always, we thank you, the listener, for tuning in to Let's Go Racing every week. As you know, we're available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the Google Play Store, and more. You can get in touch with us at davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Shoot us a line there. We check that inbox. As well as on social media, facebook.com/davidstarpodcast, and on X @StarPodcast as well. For Tyler Jones, David Starr, Jerry Jordan, and Brock Beard, I am Dominic Aragon saying so long. See you next week for Let's Go Racing.